Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is Benita Lee, and welcome to Virtual Book Club. It's the book club you can attend even if you didn't read the book. Virtual Book Club started 3 years ago this October during the pandemic. It used to be in Zoom, and we would read and discuss books that were my selections, and now we've changed it up a little bit, and we have new members today. So it's not for sure that someone would join me every day, but I haven't had to do this alone for 124 weeks now. So it's crazy. I'm joined by different guests, sometimes like on different continents. Today I'm joined by Avel, Rob, Hal, and Chris Postel said he was going to be here, but then he forgot to shave. So he said he wasn't screen ready, so we can expect him in the comments.
The next thing he'll say is the dog ate his book or something,
Right. Got to give Chris a hard time. So we're reading Becoming Coachable. I'm not used to not being able to hold up the book, Hal.
I did the Kindle one, so I can't hold one up either.
Oh wow, we're all
yes, can. Just bring up the cover in Kindle and put it up.
So yeah, Becoming Coachable was 99 cents for the Kindle version. So we all went different routes this time. We went Kindle, we went Audible, and it's different. And I'm going to push myself to do more Audible. Number one, because it's more cost effective and it saves room on my bookshelf. And number two, I'm teaching my brain how to
it's not showing.
We got Vernon Webb here.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good.
Good.
Yeah, so I did the Audible version, Vern, and so did Rob. Avel and Hal did the Kindle version. How did you do this one?
Now, forgive me, I've walked in on the middle of something. So now, how did I do which one?
How did you read the book? Or
Becoming Coachable.
Becoming Coachable, right.
Okay, I use the Audible version.
So
I don't know what? I overachieved this time. I actually did the Audible version as well as the Kindle version.
Nice.
Wow. Okay.
I overachieved.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not surprised, but okay.
And that was one of Avel's suggestions.
Wherever they're keeping records for that, Rob, you just got
gold star
for it.
Yeah, you just got a gold star. Rob.
I can go and show it proudly to my kindergarten teacher.
You might want to bring an apple too, just in case.
So I really got a lot out of it because I listened to it like while I was doing dishes, while I was doing laundry, while I was waking up in the morning. So, and then I keep on hoping that my brain will like retain it more because repetition, but it doesn't appear that way.
What can't you recall?
She can't recall. So how can she?
How can I recall what I can't recall?
because it's there.
What I do recall is going through the steps, like how when you're engaging and how to find a coach that's a good fit, and how people use different methods. And I mean, it reminded me of how I engaged with one, and that's sitting right here in the room. But it was over it was over a period of time, and getting to know Vern and getting to know what he does.
So Fern, maybe you can teach her the 3-finger technique.
What about the 3-finger technique, Evan?
Maybe you can teach Benita the 3-finger technique so she can remember.
I could do that. I don't know if now is the time to do that, but
No, not now. Like
at
for the
some point in
future.
time, I'd be more than
Yeah.
happy to.
Yeah.
Be more than
For the
happy to.
future, yeah.
I think that what I learned from, being coachable, it gave me quite a bit of insight in terms of what I should be trying to communicate with my clients, so that they would become more coachable. And that's worked out really well. It was a ton of information. Can I recall it all? No, but when I need it, I think I can pull it up enough to make it worthwhile to have listened to it. But it was a good book. It was a good choice. Whose choice was that, by the way?
As I recall, you thought that it should be more of a democratic process to choose the book. So I was like, what would Vern like?
Well, wasn't it by accident? I think Hal mentioned, I don't know how it first came up, and a bunch of us bought it for 99 cents. And
Yeah.
then we said, since so many of us had it, we'll do it.
Yeah, there was a lot of hype, and the 3 authors, Marshall Goldsmith, Steve Osmond, and Jacqueline Lane, had it all over their LinkedIn feeds, and so it was advertised, and I was like, wow, like being coachable is probably one of the most sorely needed skills that our society needs, right?
Well, for anybody who is interested in personal growth, because I think that everyone can benefit from coaching, but not everybody sees the value.
Right.
Well, I don't need to get a coach. How? Ever been coached?
Yes.
Robert, ever been coached?
Yes.
I have several times. And I've done peer coaching. I've done all different kinds of coaching. And it's been helpful.
I will be humble enough to admit in the answer to answering that question that you asked, Vern, that I wish I had this book, and I wish I had read it as the recipient of coaching, because I will be honest, and that I when that was occurring, I had a hard time getting my ego out of my own way at that time. And so I wasn't the best student.
Yeah.
You know what?
Oh,
sorry. Go ahead, Vern.
No, it is something that you have to do. You have to put your ego. I've been coached by numerous people, and I had to put my ego in my back pocket and, just shut up and listen and be open to the information. And, and I think I know this and I think I know that. Shut up and listen. Act like you don't know anything, because the reality of it is you don't. So just shut up and listen. And it's one of the reasons that I like spending time with you all, because I learn, and I like to go places and spend time with people that I can learn something from. If I didn't think I could learn from each of you, trust me when I tell you, I wouldn't be here. So I always get something whenever I spend time with the VBC.
So on weeks when Vern is not here, that means that he doesn't feel like he can get anything from us. That's what I. You know what? Okay. Seriously though, I want to go back directly to the book because I'm with Hal and Vern. I wish that I had this book many years ago, because it starts off talking about coaching from an executive level standpoint. And so in one of the first chapters, and I sorry, I got my Kindle all highlighted a little bit. It asks the question, what does it mean to be coached? And they go on to say that hiring a coach is amongst the surest investments a company can make in talent. So in other words, the company is saying we envision our future together, and so we're going to make sure that we invest in you. But then they also debunk some common myths about coaching, because oftentimes if your boss comes to you and says, I want you to get coaching, the ego, like Hal said, makes you think, well, what's wrong with me? Why do you suggest I need coaching? But they kind of flipped it on its head, and they said that see, how did it say? Okay, so they debunked some myths about coaching, and they said having a coach is something to be ashamed of. That's a myth. Next myth was having a coach means something is wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. Next myth is that the coach is actually there to fix you. And a lot of us think that, okay, something's wrong with me, coach is going to fix it. And then the next myth was mentors do the same thing as a coach and they do it for free, which we know that's not true. And if you didn't know, you do now after you've read the book. And then one of the last ones was having a coach is like seeing a therapist. Again, those were all myths for anybody listening thinking that that's true. Those were myths. Some of them were like, oh yeah, I get, yeah. Oh yeah, that's okay. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like how you went through that.
It's when you're ready to grow. That's when you get a coach. And the example I love to use is that there are people who are top CEOs who are performing well, and they still go out and get a coach because they think that Warren Buffett, what does he need to learn? What, so he can be more successful? Really? So he can try and, learn how to make money to make ends meet? Really? Got him a coach because he feels he can do better. So anybody who is interested in being able to do better goes out and gets a coach. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and I like that comment that they made. Coaching is from the inside out.
Yeah, it is.
Well, but isn't all of that why I'm not going to say it never is successful, but it rarely is successful when someone is assigned a coach. Because usually the circumstances surrounding that are ones where it is if it's not of the individual's choosing, then whatever the circumstances are surrounding that, the person is not going into it with the right mindset. Doesn't mean that it can't work out well, but it's going to be much rarer that it does, as opposed to the individual who decides.
Right, seeks it out.
Coach, and they seek it out on their own.
I had lunch with a new member of City Club, and he said he looked at my information on LinkedIn and saw that I was a coach, so he was kind of anxious to talk to me. And he said, I've been coached. He said, but when I first started getting coaching, he said, I was not a good subject. I'm thinking, you're wasting your time. Why am I talking to you? How soon can we get this over with? And he said, after I started working with him, I requested that he and I continue meeting next year, every other month. And then after that, quarterly. So it's just a matter of, getting out, putting your ego in your back pocket and seeing what you can learn. Then it is well worth the time. But so anybody and most people do that. Well, we're assigning a coach to you. Why? What did I do? Would I screw up something? I think it's a matter of how management presents it to you and they start making some suggestions that, we're looking at your performance evaluation and there's some areas in which we feel you need, which we think that you're challenged. And they start pointing it out. And of course, the guys got to say, well, yeah, I could probably do better with that. And I could probably do better with that too. We do too. And so what we're going to do is we're going to bring in a coach to help you shore up these areas so that he knows why he's getting a coach. These are areas that you're challenged in.
And I think I agree to some degree, Vern, but I think from a positioning standpoint, if someone is being assigned a coach, it is not of their own choosing, then the language really needs to be about you're already good.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to enhance your potential with the organization because your future is limitless. And we want to invest in you to take you from good to great.
If they told you that, how you'd be okay, bring him in. I'm ready to go because you have a totally different mindset now.
Right.
And that really is the best way for a company to do it. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah. And it is all about the framing because in the book, a lot of it was talking about you choosing your coach because they talked about chemistry calls, to see if everything clicks. But at some point, a company might just say, here's the topic. Here's some coaches, or here are some coaches that we believe can help you with this particular topic. And you may not have a choice. So, yeah, it is all about the framing.
Yeah, there was a situation I'll relate here that, it was not of my choosing, but it was an organizational thing. So the organization at the time had, bought into all of the Gallup stuff and the Gallup Q12 stuff, had gotten books for all of the leadership, the Kouzes and Posner books about the leadership challenge and all that stuff. If you're familiar with that material, if you're not, I'm not going to, belabor the story with going into all that detail. But it was really, the organization was really embracing, what it meant to be a leader. So part of that, everyone in leadership, of which I had the opportunity to be one of those folks, also had 360s as a result of the process. And as a result of all of that material and the 360, everyone got a coach, but the coach was assigned to them. It wasn't of their choosing. So, I can't remember exactly, but let's just say it was probably about 15 people in the organization. The CEO was not participating in it. He was orchestrating it through the HR area, but the rest of leadership was. And there were about 3 or 4 coaches that were assigned to cover these 12 to 15 people. And you were just assigned one of those. There wasn't a chemistry figuring out opportunity or anything, and it wasn't of your choosing. And I went into it not buying what the 360 was saying. I didn't agree with elements of it, as opposed to taking feedback as a gift. I got defensive. And I was skeptical of the process because I never got comfortable in my own mind with all the assurances provided that the coach wasn't treating the conversations as confidential because it was an organizational thing.
Whoa.
And so that might have been just, both of those things might have been
Whoa.
my issues. I'm not saying, in hindsight that either of those issues were valid. Yes, I shouldn't have been defensive and I should have embraced it and milked it for all it's worth because the company's providing it, but I didn't. And I never got over my skepticism of how confidential the process was. Now, looking back, shame on me. I didn't take advantage of an opportunity that was handed to me on a silver platter, at the organization's expense. But I think that's just maturity, and I just didn't have that level of maturity at the time.
That's
Sorry for
that's
boring you
honest.
with a story, but that was
No,
No.
that made me think too, is like I've always had skepticism about the confidentiality of 360s. Always. It hasn't ended.
All the coaches that I've had, I've paid for them.
Yep.
So I was, invested in the process.
Right.
Actually, that's admirable, Evo, because when you're willing to invest in you, not only you're not waiting for the company to make the move, you're making the move. I want it for me. So that says a lot about how you see your personal growth and development. That is, in my opinion, admirable.
Yeah, two different situations though. I meant in the case where a company was providing it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, the best case scenario is you come to your own conclusion that you need a coach. You go through the process of vetting, identifying one that's going to be the right chemistry for you, and you're paying for it out of your own pocket because you're vested at that point. The more you take any of those decision opportunities away, the less vested you're going to be in it. The company's deciding, you don't really have a choice in who the coach is, and it's not your money. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't take the opportunity to take it for all it's worth, because it's being offered to you as a gift. But most people don't, and I know I didn't. In hindsight, I'm kicking myself for it, but
Our egos get in the way so often with decisions that are going to benefit us. And we just think we know that much and so forth, and our ego gets in the way, and now we look back and we go, oh shit, I should have gone on and done that.
I think part of that, Vern, is I think things are changing. I don't think they've changed, but I think they are changing. But the corporate America that I climb the ranks of organizations in, you were the leaders you emulated usually had huge egos themselves. And so you just thought that, well, if that's what success is, then within what feels comfortable to you, that's the way to behave. That's the way to act. And so you go through all of this garbage, and looking at it in hindsight, all this garbage about, you're always right. And, no matter what went wrong, you spin it a different way. And, and you appear invulnerable, even if you don't know crap about what you're talking about, and all that stuff. But that's what you were emulating, what success looked like.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and what's interesting?
I'm sorry, just to finish the thought, and that's
okay.
how you get this ego that isn't even consistent with your personality, because you're putting on a charade.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rob.
No. I'm sorry, I interrupted you, but I like the fact that they mentioned that in the book. So some of the parts I liked is when they hit those points where you might have some sort of internal conflict. So on social media, everybody's telling you, just take action, just do it. Any action is better than, no action. And while, yeah, action is good, but in the book, they talk about taking action, but then they have a section where they say not all action is good. And they give an example of how not all action is good. It actually has to be the right action. But then they did the same thing. Let me take a look at my notes here. They did the same thing. Oh, with accountability. He talked about how accountability was good, but not all accountability is good. And he gave the example of this high-powered executive who spent all of his time at work, and then his wife filed for divorce. And she still loved him, but felt like he wasn't giving her enough time. And And he actually said he devoted his time to the company. So he was accountable to the company. And so I think it underscored that, well, for me, it said a few things. You can be a good leader in one place, but a horrible leader somewhere else, all at the same time. And it requires some good balance. And I guess that's maybe where a coach could actually help you too. But those two things really struck me.
It's interesting, Rob, though, that you say you could be a really good leader in one place and a horrible leader someplace else. And I'm thinking, I'm going to question that because of what leadership is about. I mean, certainly you're going to be better in some areas than others, but I don't know that it's going to be quite that drastic. The lack of balance in someone's life speaks volumes, because if you're a good leader, you know you got to have that work-life balance. When things are going good at work but not so good at home, why is that? You got to ask that question. I think some of the questions we need to ask ourselves are the tough questions. But that work-life balance is absolutely critical for success in life. Because if you give all your time and your attention and your energy to the job, but you're neglecting the family, how good a leader are you going to be? And the family is looking at you to lead them, not only in terms of making sure that they've got a roof over their heads and clothes on their back and food in their stomach, but for you to be there emotionally for them. And that requires a balance of time management, where you have to say, and here's the word, no.
Yeah, but I would push back on that some too, and I would say you could take a good leader, put them in an extremely toxic environment where the culture is so corrupt there may not be any overcoming it, because we've seen that before too with some leaders.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the bigger points in the book is you have to not only be coachable, but the people on your team have to be coachable as well. And so that's when you have to make some hard decisions on who to get rid of to right size your team too. So it kind of goes back to, I'm bouncing between my point and your point. I think if you are a good leader, you might actually be able to get rid of some things, but what if it's people that you can't get rid of? You see a lot of managers who are stuck with certain employees because they've inherited them and they're friends with the CEO's wife or son or something like that.
Yeah.
So those are kind of like those no-win situations. But balance.
One of the things I've noticed is that a lot of coaches now, they're using some sort of wheel of life, where you have the different sections like the work, the family, all that stuff to help you balance out your life. And I do agree with you, Rob, because sometimes, and maybe it's misguided in the sense that, you want to provide for your family and you think that you spending hours and hours making the money so that they can have this kind of life, and not realizing that you showing up for them is equally important. So there, I just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
There's a line out of the book. It's on page 86 of the Kindle version. Who knows what page it's on, in any other versions, but it seems consistent with what we're talking about. It says, leadership asks difficult things of you every day. It asks you to set aside the person you may want to be for the person you have to be for the organization at large. And the more I think the more you resist that, then the better off you're going to be. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's reality. What the organization asks you to be may not be who you are. And to be who you are, bring your whole self to work, may not be consistent with what the organization wants out of you. And how people reconcile that can be great sources of stress.
Right.
Where a coach can be very helpful in that is helping you navigate through that, because it is rare. I'm not going to say it doesn't exist. It is rare where someone is the exact same person in their personal life with their friends as they are the exact same person at home with their spouse and children, as they are the exact same person in the work environment. The core of the person is there, but you put on different masks to conform to what is expected of you. And the more incongruent those things are, the greater the stress is. And when you have no one to talk to about it,
that's important.
That's tough.
And that is real, Hal. That is real important. When you're coaching the person at the top, when you're coaching the CEO, and I've talked with some of the CEOs that I've coached. I'm like, you know what? I said, let me tell you why you need me. I said, because the people that are working for you, they're not going to tell you the truth. They're going to tell you what they think you want to hear if they value their job.
Right.
So they're going to oh, boss, you're doing a great job. No, boss, you're not doing a great job. There are some areas that you are sorely lacking in. And the folks at home don't know what you're doing at work, so they can't help you. So you need someone from the outside that has a relationship of some sort with you to say, no. This is an area in which you need to tighten it up. And put your ego in the back pocket and just kind of listen to what I'm saying, because in the end, you're going to benefit.
I think something that I got out of the book, I got a lot of things out of the book as well. Something I got out of the book is that, even though the coach, whether it's of your choosing or assigned, is if they're doing the right thing as a coach, then they're not just coaching you from the work environment perspective. They're coaching you as a whole individual. They need to understand you in all of the aspects of your life, not just as you present yourself in the work environment, if it's really going to be successful. Because through the conversation, the coach has to understand what's important to you, really important to you as a person, what makes you tick, and how they can help direct you in the environment that might be the work environment to be yourself and maximize yourself in that environment. And if I didn't have the benefit of this book and I were thinking back 10, 20 years ago, I would have not viewed it that way. I would have viewed it as, why are you talking to me about my life? Why are you talking to me about my friends? Why are you talking to me about my relationships? That's irrelevant. This is about work, And so I think that, it's important for, the right coach is going to look at the person holistically and coach them holistically and make sure that the person understands that early on in the relationship.
Yeah. And I think what you just said, Hal, has been the big shift, or one of the big shifts in the workplace over the last 15 or so years, whereas we kept everything so separate for such a long time. And then we got to a point where we overshared. And I think now the pendulum is back where we're like, okay, you need to bring yourself to work, but some stuff still needs to stay out. And then you're going to be taking some work home sometimes, but then some stuff still needs to stay out. So I think we hit this pendulum where we swung too far one way, then we swung too far another way. And now we're figuring out that a good balance, because I mean, we know years ago, you did not talk about anything personal in the workforce at all. You could have had a family member that was in the hospital dying and you were just supposed to suck it up. Thinking that wouldn't affect your work performance is really foolish, but it's I think it's a different workforce now.
Better be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I've noticed about myself as I grow older, like I'm more open. And, we mentioned this before about the ego. Like I want coaching on one thing, and that's what I want. And I want you to get on with it, except there's a process to go through. So I'm understanding that now. And even though I may want coaching on one thing, it's important that you understand all the elements that may be impacting that one thing. So I'm less egotistical about that, because a lot of times, well, you don't know what you don't know, right? You have these blinders on and you need someone to help you.
Sometime between the age of 16 and 25, we all think we're the smartest people in the world. And then sometimes as maturity kicks in from there, we start to realize that we don't know much about anything. But there's some point where we flip to, that's when we start tuning out the parents because we're smarter than them. And then we show up at work and we think we're going to be in the boardroom by, in the next couple of years because we're smarter than everybody else around us, and at some point in time, and I've been posting a lot about it. I know, Rob, you've been a great supporter of a lot of my posts on LinkedIn. I've been posting more and more about things about humility, and how important that is. There was another page 118 in the book. It says, people with intellectual humility recognize something just as important, that they may be wrong. The intellectually humble are willing to question their own beliefs, the evidence of which those beliefs are based, and the blind spots that may distort them. And I think that is a huge challenge for a coach coaching someone and for the person being coached to realize that if the coach can't help the person realize their own humility, and if the person can't grow through the conversation to accept being more humble, it's going to be a difficult relationship.
Mm-hmm.
There is something to be said about being assigned a coach and going out and seeking your own.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're assigned a coach, the company's picking up the tab, take advantage of it. But when you go out and you are looking for a coach and you're interviewing potential coaches, there are some questions that are going to be, want to see if the chemistry is there. Do I want to follow you? Do I want to listen to you? And that's really important. But it's, we've talked about it, accountability. You have to have it. And it's one of the things that I will tell my clients. I said, in addition to being your executive coach, I said, I am also your accountability partner, which means that when you and I say that you're going to do something, then at some point in time, I'm going to ask you, so where are you with this and that you said you were going to do? I want to hear about it. I'm going to hold you accountable. And that is, having somebody hold you accountable gives you a whole different perspective on the whole process of being coached and learning. Nowadays, and I think you brought it up, Rob, we're in a different world. People are looking at soft skills where before they were not. And now they're finding out exactly how important soft skills are. Emotional intelligence. Research showed those people who are emotionally intelligent are more successful. They perform better, period. End of story. And that's why a lot of organizations and corporations are sending their staff and employees to learn emotional intelligence. And the emotional intelligence that is most important is the emotional intelligence that starts with you. Because once you have you squared away, I would tell you that pretty much everybody else is going to fall in line. You're the one that's going to be difficult, though. You know, your emotion, your relationship with you, boy, that's, wow. That's the one. That really is the one. And that's where you have to step back, put your ego in your pocket, and listen and admit that there are some things that you don't know. Let me point out to you some of your blind spots. And that's just why you have a coach, certainly in sports. You know, there's some things you just don't see. You won't be able to see. It takes a coach to point them out. And it's no different in the work world. In corporations, there are some things you don't see. You're talking to someone and this is how you're coming across to them. No, I'm not. Yeah, you are. You know, you really are. And so that's where you need somebody to point out those blind spots. Otherwise, you're not going to make it. You're just not going to make it. So that's why for me, having somebody to point out my blind spots, oh yeah, I welcome that, because you don't know what you don't know.
Right. In the book, they talked about reflection, how you don't know your blind spots, but a coach can reflect what people perceive back to you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's one of the more important roles of a coach. So you guys know one of my things is asking really good questions. And so as I've studied this, what I found out over the years is the best way to make someone accept something, buy into it, and take action is if they discover it themselves.
True.
And the best way to get them to discover it themselves is by asking them a lot of really good questions. So
really true.
Exactly. So that you pull it out of them. And I think that's what a really good coach does. He or she helps you realize the fault or the error or the weakness that you have by helping you analyze personal and specific scenarios that you've gone through and pulling out those lessons learned yourself. Because if you get the ego out of the way, like Hal started off, if the ego is out of the way, when you hear it back and you know that you've done something stupid, you can say, oh yeah, that was stupid. That. But if your ego is still in the way, you're still what I like to call complaining and blaming. You know, this is horrible. They shouldn't have done this. They shouldn't have done that. But what was your role in it?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what a good coach does, because they make you think critically about stuff. And you start to think to yourself, oh, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that.
The asking of good questions, Rob, is absolute gold. I mean, it is absolute gold. But you've got to know where you want to lead them. But being able to ask those questions, that makes them go, well, I hadn't thought of that. I said, well, something for you to consider. You know, why did you do this, or how did you do this? And knowing when to ask the best kinds of questions. Sometimes why is not the best question to ask.
Yep.
Instead of asking somebody, why did you do that? You ask the question, so how did you come to that conclusion?
Yep.
You know, and that's when coaching becomes invaluable. When you can ask really good questions. And it's called the Socratic method of learning.
Familiar
and
with
I
that?
am a very firm believer of the Socratic method of learning. Let me just ask you. And then the other is that if a coach is good, he knows how to listen well. And when I ask a question to some of my clients and I listen to them give me their answer, they're saying things and I know that, I'm just on a quick, And then I say, you said bus and such. They said, no, I didn't. I said, yeah, you did. I said, you need to rethink this particular point of view, because it really, for all intents and purposes, is what's holding you back. And they had no idea until I pointed it out to them. And I was only able to point out because I was listening, and then I started asking good questions to bring that out so that they could better see it. But yeah, asking good questions is invaluable.
You know, you guys talk about ego a lot, but what really resonated with me was when they described the people pleaser. Yeah, and I think that I would mostly relate to that people pleaser method at like my own expense. So that really made me uncomfortable, just like they said it would.
Why, Benita?
Because they called me on it. The book called me on it. I got called out. Yeah.
When you get called out, and I know because I've been called out a number of times in life. It's like, damn, did I? Yeah, you did. You did say that. Wow. I'm like, and that's an aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
And those are invaluable to me when somebody can point something out that I just did not see. That's, it's like, damn. Okay, I got it. I got it. It's, I ain't got to like it, but I got it.
Yeah. So the book, like, I want to save a few minutes to talk about our next book and the calendar for next month. But the book basically gave me a better idea of how to be more coachable. And I think that's a skill that everyone needs in the workplace right now. And so, I give it 4 stars at least. Hal, what about you?
On a scale of 1 to 5, I think I gave it a 4.
Okay, yeah, we're about the same.
Yeah. Actually, I give it a 4.5.
That's what I was thinking too, Ver.
I tried to give point something, but the system won't let me, so I have to.
No, that's just a personal expression.
Yeah,
what you all have given me the idea to do, though, is to get the book in the Kindle version, so I can go through and highlight some things and go back and reflect to it. Otherwise, I have to listen to it again. So
as I've been doing my Sunday posts on LinkedIn of the books I've read, this one would be the one that I would do this Sunday. So, I came up with my 4. I go half points. I'm not going to try to figure out something more granular than taking a 5-point scale and making it a 10-point scale with half points already. But the last time I looked, the Amazon average was 4.9 on a scale of 5. And I think Goodreads was like 4.4, which is usually almost consistently about a half point or so lower than Amazon.
Okay.
Like Amazon gets more people stuffing it, with people who like the authors, they don't even read the book, but.
Mm-hmm.
So here's another. It was page 60 something that you'll like, Vern. I think I think Benita's ready to wrap up talking about this book. Coaching is a process designed for grown-ups, calling for no sugarcoating or awarding of participation prizes.
No participation prize. Just because you showed up,
right?
You don't get a prize.
You don't get a ribbon just for showing up.
I don't.
Let me ask a quick question. Do all of you believe that you shouldn't get a ribbon just because you showed up? Or do you think just because you showed up, you should get something too?
For
No.
coaching, being coached?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love something I can hang on my wall and add to the other credentials that shows, see, look how smart I am. I was a successful coachee. But no, I'm just being sarcastic. No.
I think personally, because usually with the coaches I've had, there's some sort of homework. So you have to be all in, you have to participate, and you have to be engaged. If you're not doing any of those things and just doing it because your employer says so, no ribbon for you.
Yeah, I agree. You got to do the work. You do. You have to do the work.
Have you ever wondered if you've made the right call?
Nice
I need you to
pivot.
be just a tad bit more specific with that,
Nice,
Benita.
nice pivot, Benita.
She's teeing up
I
the
realize
next
it's a segue, but I'm gonna need you to be just a tad bit more specific.
So, Sally Jenkins, a New York Times bestseller, writes a book called The Right Call: What Sports Teach Us About Work and Life. And I mean, this conversation, I think, is like a really good segue into becoming coachable. Because what industry has more, like well-known coaches than the sports industry, right? The Washington Post sports writer and New York Times bestselling author of The Wall Street Journal. Of The Fascinating. It's like a column. The Real All Americans presents a love letter to the extraordinary coaches and athletes she has covered over the years and the actionable principles of excellence they embody. Sports writer Sally Jenkins has spent her entire adult life observing and writing about great coaches and athletes. With her engaging and expert prose, she has helped shape the way we view these talented sports icons. But somewhere along the line, she realized they had begun to shape her. Now she presents the astonishing inner qualities in these same people that push them to overcome the pressure, elevate their performances, and discover champion identities. Based on years of observing, interviewing, and analyzing elite coaches and playmakers such as Bill Belichick, Peyton Manning, Michael Phelps, and more, Jenkins really reveals the 7 principles behind success. So what do you think?
I think I've started reading it already. So far, so good.
I'll start this weekend. I've had to read a lot of books for professional reasons.
Right.
So, Benita, I think this is the right call.
I think so too. And I like that it's a woman author and she's a writer to begin with. What are your first thoughts, Hal?
I like the way she tees up the subject in the intro, and I'm into the first paragraph on conditioning. And she really explores Michael Phelps as someone who, would be an example of someone who did what they needed to do, regardless of whether you wanted to do it at the time. And so I haven't gotten as far in that chapter where she starts to extrapolate the leadership lessons, but she's talking about Michael Phelps and his relationship with his coach, and how, my early opinion is it seems worthy to read for sure. And
Cool.
I think we'll have some good conversations about it.
I can't
But
wait.
I'm only about 30 pages in, so.
Okay. So November's schedule is going to be, because of US Thanksgiving, we're going to skip the 23rd, but we're going to do the 9th, the 16th, and the 30th. So there will be 3 next month.
Okay, so November 9, November 16th.
16th and 30th. Yeah.
Okay.
And I might try to put the events all together out at once so that people can just, click the ones they want to attend.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to this book because someone in my Silver Graduate group, she was reading it and she was saying, you folks got to read this. So she has me all excited. And I watched that book until it went on sale.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
I waited till I finished Becoming Coachable and then said, I gotta jump over to another book, and it never came down below $14.99 US on Kindle. So
I got it $4.99.
yeah, I know you. Thanks for that reminder.
I get 1 credit each month, so a book a month really works for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With what, Audible?
Yeah, from Audible.
They're having a promotion on I noticed for $5.95 in the US. My Amazon is set to Amazon.com. So I'm not Amazon.ca. So yeah.
You have to get a Kindle.
Well, I used Kindle, Vern, on my phone.
Yep.
Okay.
My Android phone, and I also have the same app on my PC.
So do I.
And they generally, sometimes I have to futz with it a little bit, but generally they say synced, so that I've got my phone with me, and so if I'm sitting there, and I've got a few minutes because I'm waiting for something to happen, and I didn't anticipate, I can just pull it out, and then when I get back, I'm sitting here doing something on my PC, and I go and say, hey, I got 10 minutes till my next meeting, pop it up on my PC and just read a few pages there. So
yep. And I see what Ava was talking about. It is $4.95 for 4 months. For Audible, that is. Sorry.
No.
$4.95 for 4 months.
Yeah. It's regularly $14.95 a month, I believe.
Right.
It is.
So that seems like a good deal. I think I might have to try that out for 4 months and then cancel.
So if you already have a subscription, then can you do that?
No, you can't do that.
Oh, okay.
No,
But you can always cancel your subscription and then
resubscribe.
Right.
I don't think they'll allow you to do that.
I've done that before.
Oh, okay.
Because sometimes they'll bring it down to like $1 a month for a couple of months, and I
different name, different email address, you could get away with it, I would think.
No, same name, same email address. I think it's just them trying to get you back as a customer, because you usually forget when it's time for that thing to renew unless you set a reminder on your calendar like I do.
Or you pay attention to your credit card statement.
That too, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So we've given our viewers.
We've given advice on how to scam the system.
Yep.
You heard it here.
How to take advantage of the opportunities that arise.
Spin.
Creativity in action.
Well, we need to go. I have a meeting at 1 today. So we won't be talking back in the studio this week, but I look forward to doing that again in 2 weeks' time.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
That sounds like the right call to me.
Yeah. I I feel like it's the right call.
I
so
am
I'm gonna go with
coachable,
it.
so that sounds like the right call to me.
Yeah,
Love it.
Oh, you guys.
Thank you,
Always a
everyone.
pleasure.